Okay. For Mac, open terminal. And the installation app in is called Brew in Mac. So you can update it and install Azure CLI. And that's it for Mac. For Windows, you have two options. You can, for Windows, you can open PowerShell and run where is that? So PowerShell is like a command prompt for Windows. Let's see, that whole thing. Okay, let me share my screen real quick and just talk about some basic terminal stuff. Actually, I'll just share one of my terminals here. Sure, I'll share the PowerShell and what else? This terminal. Okay, so can you guys see, I guess, two windows that have text on them? Yes, wonderful. Okay. So this is a Linux terminal on the left, the one with the black background. The one here on the right is with a blue background is the Windows PowerShell. Each of these are a type of terminal. Although this one on the left is actually Linux, it will be pretty much identical to Mac, except for, so in Mac, you have this program called Brew. Brew is just an installer. So you can install and delete applications using this thing called Brew. Because this is the one thing that's different in Linux is for this, for Linux, I would use apt instead of brew. So apt update. Oh, what? Yeah. Huh. Let's see. Talk, maybe? Very strange. Why isn't apt working here? Huh. That's very strange. Yeah, I'm in Bash. Huh. Let me check this really quick. That's very strange. Windows Linux subsystem apt. Okay, sorry. I gotta share a different one here. There we go. Very good. Yeah, so in Mac, you'll use brew. In Linux, you use apt. So apt update, that just gets the newest versions of things, of all the programs that are available. And the way that things work in the terminal is you are running programs. So apt is the name of a program. There's lots and lots of different programs, like ls is a program to list files in a directory. So I guess in this directory, there's nothing in my home directory, but oh, cd, change directory. That's another program. And whatever. So you type the name of a program, and then this program can take what are called command line arguments. Like when you would run Python programs, you could type, Python, whatever, file.py, and then arg1, arg2. You can pass in arguments. So similarly, other programs can take arguments. Here, if you apt-get install, so again, for you, this would be, if you're on Mac, this would be brew instead of apt. Install Azure. Oh, maybe in Linux it's a different name. Ooh, okay, kind of nasty. It's actually not so fun on Linux. Do something different. Okay, whatever. So PowerShell is like a terminal. For Linux, it's just how to say, the underlying operating system is just different because it's Windows. Mac and Linux and Unix, all of these, their underlying operating systems are very similar, and you can do a lot more from the terminal. Windows, not so much. There's also a graphical installer if you don't want to use the PowerShell, although I think that's easier. Okay. We have the recorded video for this part. Yeah, I'm recording. I should be, aren't I? Yeah. Okay. So you can also go here, and there's a button that you can click that just says current release of the Azure client. You can install that, just download it and install it. That will be maybe more of the type of thing that you're used to. You download an application, you double click it. There's a graphical installer. Otherwise, you can take this command and open in PowerShell and just execute it here. So I'll go ahead and do that. You can see it's writing a web request. So this is downloading. It's doing all the same stuff. Could not lock file. Open permission denied. Oh, yeah. That's right. It's not so fun with Linux. I'll do this. What? Okay. Okay. Okay, so after you have, there we have on the right for Windows the Azure client installed. On the left, it will be something similar to this if you run brew install Azure CLI, and this installs the Azure client. So it's a program. Now this program you use through a command or through a terminal to issue commands. You can double check that things are working by using the name of the program AZ. So here, if I run AZ on the right, you can see the different options. So program name, space, and then some arguments. Here, if you just type AZ, it'll print out this help guide. And so these are the different arguments that you can give it. We'll see here. MySQL, if you want to manage a MySQL server. Although I would recommend Postgres, which is where Postgres here. PostgreSQL. Postgres is it has some more features to it. For example, the accept for set set difference.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, the link that you sent in the chat, is that the same? That's if you just download it from there, that's the same as running the line in PowerShell, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so you said that we can check by using AZ if we correctly downloaded it, and if AZ doesn't work,
it means you haven't installed it.
Okay, so when I check in Windows, and I type in Azure, I see Azure CLI.msi. Does that mean that?
Oh yeah, that's the installer. So if you downloaded an MSI file, then you can execute the MSI file. That's an MSI is a Microsoft installer file. So
got it, and that will allow me to use AZ after I run that, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
okay, sweet.
If you've downloaded the MSI file, that's the installer. You can double click the installer. It's just like installing any program that you've ever installed before. And after that, it's installed. And you can either open up command prompt. There's a program called command prompt in Windows. There's also PowerShell. PowerShell is just more feature filled. So you can open up PowerShell and then try to type AZ in the PowerShell, and hopefully it should return like this. I mean, with the output here.
Sweet, thank you.
Yep. And for Mac, after you do brew install Azure CLI, that's all you need to do. And then running this AZ command should also work for you. Okay, let's see. Very good. All right. So, yeah. Let me open up a new Mozilla. Okay. If you go to portal.azure.com, here I've already logged in. For you, it should prompt you to log in with your student account or with your Rutgers account, which is what you use to get your student account. And yeah, user advisor. I don't care about any of that. Okay. So if you go to portal.azure.com, Azure is a it's a wide range of services. Okay, like AWS. These are cloud services. I mean, what all that this means, the cloud, is that there's computers somewhere, and they're connected to the internet, and you can, via the internet, use some of these computers or use some of their computational resources. So that can be making databases. It can be running a web server app. It can be hosting a game server. I mean, whatever, anything that you can do on a computer. So these have lots of different things that you can do. For us, for this class, we're just interested in the database part of it. So if you go to portal.azure.com, then let's see. No, I don't want the Cosmos DB. SQL databases. There you go. Oh. Okay. You can add a new SQL database. Let's do this. Okay. So again, you should have an Azure for Students account. This gives you like $100 to use whatever resources that you like. And that's plenty for this. So you'll need to create a resource group. I don't know, I'll call this business or BDM. What is this? Section 2 we're in. Okay. Give your database a name. So this will just be a trial database. For the server, you need to create a new one. Oh, good. Yes. Okay. You can see my screen. Let me go down here. Can Mac collab with Windows? Would there be a problem? There shouldn't be a problem. No. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because this is, I mean, you're using a cloud service. So the way that somebody using a Windows computer is going to issue commands to that cloud service is just going to be different than the commands that a Mac computer would. But once the issues are given, or once the commands are given, then they should be executed all the same. The problem would be if you're doing something through the terminal, you're not going to be able to say to a Windows user, I ran this on my Mac terminal, you run the same thing in Windows. It might be different, but there shouldn't be any problems with collaboration here. Okay. Servers, okay, so we need to name the server something. This needs to be, it makes me create, I'm going to try to create a new database. It makes me create an Azure account. Do you already have an Azure account? No. Yes, so you need, okay. Yes, you need to create an account on Azure. To have it can be a student account. You can use your Scarlet Mail, and what here, just Azure for students. We're all students, or you're all students. So Microsoft has a nice program where they'll give you $100 to use on whatever services you like. And the way that you're charged, it depends on which services you're using, how long you're using them, and stuff like this. For this class, I mean, you're not going to use the $100. Like that's way more than you need. You can also set up a database with AWS, but that I don't think it's free. You'd have to pay some small amount. I don't know, $5, something like that. So that's why I'm using Azure for this class. You can use another service if for some reason you, I don't know, you want to try Google Cloud or you want to try Amazon AWS. That's fine. I don't really care. So long there's a database out there somewhere that then you give access to, then that's fine. Yes, so for these, you do need an Azure account. Yes. Okay. So right now we're creating a database server. Oh, why did I go back? I go start it again. VM2, call that resource group. Oh. Database name. DB. And great. Now we're creating the server. You can name it whatever you want, but it has to be something unique that nobody has ever used before. So I don't know if I type test, it's going to say that somebody's already using this. So we can just add, I don't know, random stuff. Actually, I don't know. I'll do something that's a bit more sane. 317. About that. Cool. And the database is going to have an administrator. The administrator is somebody who has all of the rights. They can create users, they can delete users, they can do anything they want to the database. And so you are going to be the admin. You can use whatever name you like. And give your administrator user a password. And here you can select the location. This is physically where is this server located? Here it's recommending US East because we're on the East Coast. But, if this was, I don't know, like for a company out in California, then even if you're working on the East Coast, maybe you want to have the server on the West Coast because that's where most of the users are, and so it'll be a little bit faster. This part doesn't really matter for this, but I'm just saying this is the reason why you have a choice of different locations. Wherever the users are, you want your computers as physically close as possible to them. Okay. So that is our, now we've created the server. Elastic Pool is, we don't need it. Okay, here, configuring the database. This is where you could spend your $100 faster if you want. Here you can see there's a lot of different options. So you can do a general purpose, there's a hyperscale, or a business critical. These have different, the latency to them. Like if you make a request, how quickly does it respond? Here, there's up to a 10 millisecond latency for just general purpose, but if it's business critical, then it's, 2 milliseconds or less. These IOPS are how many operations you can do in however much time. So with, the more expensive things, you can do more operations faster. Here, I'll just select serverless. So these are the number of vCores. A vCore is a virtual core. So on your laptops or your computers, you might have, I don't know, maybe, quad core that you might have, like 4 different processors. This particular computer that I'm running now, I think, is an 8 core. That's just the number of processors. Now, the way that these machines actually work is there's a real world machine that has an actual number of CPUs. But in order to have this cloud service, these are all shared resources. So there's a whatever. I mean, these systems are virtualized. So there's an interface that is used that you don't need to worry about how it's built. Basically, a vCore, you can think of how many cores would I like my program to think it has. Here, a single core is fine, but if you do more cores, then your application could have access to more computational resources. Here, it's just going to be a database this is just for class, right? I mean, we're not actually dealing with like petabytes of information. So just, you can keep everything small. You can also choose how much space you want. This will depend on the type of database that you have. You can see on these computers, you can go up to 512 gigabytes, and that's it. Here, I'll just make it small, just because. Okay. And auto-pausing is nice as well. This means that if nobody is actually using it, that you won't be charged for it. So if it's idle for an hour, then it sort of pauses, and then you're not charged. What about basic, standard, and premium options? For which options? Oh, looking for a basic, standard, premium. I see. Yeah. These might work as well. Yeah, the difference is, how to say? Yeah, so this is DTU for this. You can spend a lot of time understanding the options that are available for these cloud services. Now that they've been around for a while, there's lots and lots of different ways to be charged. Here, the you can read into these, but here it says Azure SQL Managed Instance does not support a DTU-based purchasing model. So Not appropriate for the basic anyway. Um, uh, yeah, standard, premium, all of these things are DTU based. So for other services, it's okay. But for SQL, you need to do this vCore. Wait, do I need to create an account with my student email in order to get the student options? It says I cannot sign up using a school. It says you cannot sign up using a school email. No, you should be using your school email. There's there I how to say there's other students who've already set this up before, right? I mean, I understand that maybe there's people who are doing it now. It says you can't sign up using one. I don't understand what that means. Resume for students. I mean, this is, in fact, for students, you need to use your student account because, or your student email, because that's how they verify that you're a student. Because you have, when I try to create a Microsoft account, it will not let me use my Rutgers email. So I know that there's some other students who have already set this up. Could you unmute yourself maybe for a minute and say what you did?
Professor, I didn't
Yes.
set up my like Azure, but I just went to Portal Azure right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it was already like logged in using my Scarlet Mail,
Uh-huh.
and like I think I just have to claim like the Azure for student credit, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's how it's like gonna work. I don't think like we need to create a student account, like it's already made for us through Rutgers with like the student benefits and stuff.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you.
Hi, Professor. I just tried
Yes.
that and it didn't work for me. Like, it just shows me, like, I have another work email and, like, it just shows me that I can sign into that. But when I try to create a new one using, like, my Rutgers email, it says I can't, it literally says, you can't sign up here with a work or school email address.
Oh yeah, I originally had that problem, but I ended up using my work school email.
If you're like a work student, you should just do your Connect account. Because that I'm using my yeah, like my IT like work email for school.
Wow. Um, sorry, how is your Connect account different than your school account?
It's like kind of the same. So like all my work stuff goes to my Connect account, but for me to be able to like use Microsoft Office, Word, like Excel, I for some reason always have to use my like work email, so like my Connect account. And
Yes. Yeah, right. I mean, sorry. Um, so if you try to use your Scarlet Mail, that might not work. But I think that, yeah, this Connect, like for me, it's business.rutgers.edu. Using that email is okay. But that's still I still consider that like a student email. Um, yeah. So is that is that the same thing with your Connect account? Is it just the at business.rutgers.edu instead of at scarletmail.rutgers.edu?
yeah, it's like I think the Connect account is like the domain. So like I work in the Office of Information Technology, so my Connect account is like my net ID at oit.rutgers.edu. So
Okay.
like I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So whatever email you use to use other Microsoft services, that I think should work. So if you're using Microsoft Word or whatever, and then like you can use that for free while you're a student. Yeah, whatever email you use for that, which is also I think what Office 365. That's a Microsoft thing, and yeah. Are there people who are? Can you show us? Create new server page. This one? Yeah. Tell me when I can move on.
What
Mhm.
is the server name? What is the server name? Like, do we need to put our account name and the password in here?
What is the server name?
Yes.
Yeah, so you anything you want. It just has to be a unique name. So yeah, every uh, because these are shared resources, there has to be something that makes this particular server unique to you. So you can name it anything you like, but it just has to be something like a name that nobody's ever used before. So you can add some numbers or whatever.
Okay, so this server name and the password is shared between team members, but not used by individual.
If you're working with other people, then yeah, only one of you are going to need to actually create the server.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. And there will be one administrator. That administrator you could either share that one login and password with everybody, or you can have the administrator create other users and then have different people have their own logins and passwords. The location doesn't matter, and if you are not in well, whatever. For this, it doesn't matter. Like you choose anywhere you like. The location. The only thing that will be different about that is that queries might take longer for somebody. But for example, if some of you are abroad in another country, then maybe you want to choose a server that's in your country or closer to where you physically are. That shouldn't have any issues with anybody else using it, other than things might be a bit slower. In the same way that, if you're in I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if the server is located in Asia and I'm accessing it here in the U.S., then the requests are going to take a little bit longer. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I need to do this. Oh, basics. Right. Okay. Good. Change my sales. All right. So then, so yeah, configure database. Yeah, I'll just choose this serverless one. You can't do the basic, standard, or premium for SQL. For other things, it's okay, but not for SQL. And here you'll see the estimated cost per month. It's like, yeah, $5 for this. If you change these values here, you can see how the prices will change. But yeah, for this type of thing, it's, I don't know, like here, I mean, 15 cents for a gigabyte. If you want a more storage, then it's more expensive. So if you're having here, the thing that where you're paying the money is the amount of storage that you're using, because databases aren't very computationally expensive, but they do take up space. So that's why you're charged in relation to the amount of space that you're using. Okay. So for networking, you will have to have a public endpoint. This is important for you to share your database with me. It has to be publicly available from the internet. So you can allow Azure services and resources to access the server. Please click yes to that, and also add the current client IP address. That is, that you yourself, your IP address is going to have access to this database. And here, this is because on Azure, I'm going to have a web server that is going to be accessing your database when you give me the credentials to do so. So for the network connectivity, do make it public and enable both of these. Initial settings. Right, so what type of information do you want in this database? You can have it start off empty. You can, if you have database information already, then you can restore the database. That is, if you have a database somewhere else, restoring the database is sort of just copying that database now to Azure. For now, I'll just do sample. So that way we'll have, what data max size do you recommend? Oh, the smallest one for this. I mean, yeah, you can go back through this and create, maybe different databases or, whatever. Yeah, I just made it the smallest. Or you can keep the default or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Collation, you can just keep this as is. So I'm just going to do sample data here. Oh, and I'm not going to do Azure Defender. So also with cloud services, well, whatever. Hackers are always trying to gain access and modify stuff and things like that. So there's a service that Microsoft offers to try to prevent that kind of thing from happening. I don't think for the purposes of this class it really matters, so I'll say not now. Oh, tags don't need review and create. Okay. So your storage cost might be a little bit different. For this that I just walked through, it's going to be 15 cents. And yeah, I don't know, names, the way that I set up network, whatever. And then I can create it. So up here, you can see that it's now allocating space and deploying the service. So this might take, I don't know, a minute or two. It's not very long. Okay. Yeah, background stuff happening here. Now, as far as the information that you're putting in this database, yes.
Sorry, that was my
Mhm.
niece. She just unmuted me.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Yeah, as far as the information that you put in this database, that's sort of up to you. If there's, you can either sort of manually do things and create yourself, the table layouts and indexing schemes and all of this. And if you're doing that manually, then you don't necessarily need a bunch of information. You can also just find information that you think is interesting and populate your database with it. Yeah, I don't really care what data you use. I think it would be good to have it be interesting in some way to you, so that way when you're playing around with querying and stuff like this, it's something that you don't hate doing because the information is interesting to you. Oh, it's still going.
But yeah, Professor, to clarify then, are you saying that we should just put in the database whatever we want?
If you like, yeah.
So there's no like set structure of what type of database you're looking for?
No, I would prefer it that the students are themselves interested in whatever data the database is hosting. I don't have preferences as far as the type of data that's there.
So are we like manually typing in like new entries, or is it like a way to like?
I would, yeah, there would be ways to automate it. I mean, certainly you don't want to manually insert data. I mean, there would be, yeah, you'd want some type of way to automate it. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's, yeah, I can't really think of a reason why somebody would want to subject themselves to manually entering in database information, but I don't know, maybe it makes sense for to do it that way. Like, I don't know, maybe there's like the data that you're working with isn't already in a nice format or something like this, and there's not so much of it, so putting it in manually makes sense for that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, that would, if you find yourself in that situation, talk to me about it. And we'll try to see if there's not a way that you could automate the process to make it easier.
All right.
Mhm.
So okay, thank you then.
Sure. Okay. So here now the deployment is complete. So this the server's running, and if I go home, I can see here. This is the database that I just created. Okay, stats on it, whatever. This is the thing that is most relevant, the query editor here. So again, I got there from from your home, you should have, if you go, here to your home, you should see the database that was created after it's deployed. And if you click that, you're met with this screen on the left. Will you show us how to load sample CSV data into our Azure database? Sure, I'll make a note about that. Let's see. 2DB. Okay. So, okay, this query editor, you need to log in using your administrator password. Wonderful. And now there is the SQL command line. You can see here on the left, these are the different tables. And you can see what the schemas of these tables are. So for example, let me go with this one, sales LT address. Here you can see that the address ID is the private key. It's an integer, and it's been set to be not null. I think that we've talked about all of these. Yes, we did. With creating a table. Here's whatever, this is just a schema. So there's something called address line 1 that is a string that can also, that's also not allowed to be null, address line 2, whatever. So these are the column names. Okay, each of these is a column name. You can see what they're actually called, their type, and in this case, all of these are have to have some value. If you just want a look at this table, you, like I said, when you're debugging, you can use a star. Don't use it in production. But here, I don't know. We just want to see what's in the database. So I can select this from sales LT address. Yes, this one. Now this is a little weird, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly is up with it. Anyway, if we run this query, there we go. So that just returns the entire table. Now, the thing which I'm a little will we get a written assignment instructions sheet? Sure, if you like. Well, I mean, not, how to say? I mean, sure, yeah, okay. Instruction sheet, no problem. Okay. Yeah, now this is a little weird, and I'm not sure why this is. These brackets that they use here, you see that, oh no. Oh, sorry about that. What is happening? Why? So let me go back to that. All right. Okay. So this is something I have to look into because I'm not exactly sure why this is. Here, as a whatever. here I'm, here's an example of just renaming the table. Now, this is the part that I'm a little confused on. If you say where, for example, a dot city equals Bothell, no, Dallas, whatever. Right? I mean, there's at least one city here that is called Dallas. Sorry, that's a string. But when you run this, it will say that this is an invalid column name. And I don't know why it does that. But I think if you wrap this in these, no, wait, how does this work? If you do sales LT address dot city, I think this is what works. No, multi-part identifier. Yeah, this is something that I'm still trying to figure out. Actually, it seems very strange to me that. Okay, hold on. Let's see. So load CSV. And written instructions. Oh, for the people who are asking for written instructions, you mean like everything about what I just went through to create this database? Whatever. Yeah, whatever. I can provide something like that. Okay. So yeah, this is it. I mean, this is one way to create a database. This is already pre-populated, so you can start playing around with it. You can, this has sample data. At least this way, you can start playing around with querying and seeing what the results are like, and just practicing. SQL commands, writing SQL queries. For your project, you obviously can't just turn in like this. So you have to come up with your own, populate it with your own data. I imagine I'm asking for a document with things such as goal for the project, what components you're looking for, how do you grade this, etc. Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, it's not that difficult. I can write some of it here. So, set up a SQL database. Okay, I'll write it later. Give it, put it on Canvas, I guess. Okay, now this is one way that you can interact with your database using this web. But you see here, this is a query editor. This isn't really supposed to be the main way that you interact with the database. So there is the SQL Server Management Studio. Actually, I mean, there's lots of different things that you can use. This is one that's offered by Azure. You can also set up, if you are familiar with, or if you're comfortable with some IDE like Microsoft Visual Studio Code, you can also connect to your Azure using that. This is another, this SSMS is the SQL Server Management Studio that's provided by Microsoft. And I'm just linking to the page because it depends on your operating system, how you would install it. And yeah, I don't know. You can just follow that the instructions there for it. What else is there to say? Yeah, what I would recommend is to begin well, maybe two things. Create two databases, one with this sample data, so that way you don't, you actually have a database that's already populated with different things, and you can play around with different queries. Also, I would suggest creating an empty database and starting to populate it just with some toy data yourself. Look at some of the examples that we've had in class. It could be using the the restaurants, eats, frequents, whatever, and that you can manually put in just a few entries by hand and execute queries and see them actually work. I think that is a good place to be for next week. And loading a CSV into a database. If you have an idea of some data that you would like to put in your database, we'll be able to talk about that next week during class. Like, hopefully there's. So let me know in advance also, so I can prepare and talk a little bit more about how to get the data that you want in the database. But of course, there's so many different kinds of data. It will depend. So let me know, so I can myself prepare for class next week. Aside from that, next week, I could also talk a little bit more about go back to other types of querying. For example, I remember a student asking how you would do I think it was a left join. Not that it really matters, but a left join or a right join or this kind of thing. How would you write that as a relational algebra query, and then how would you write that as a SQL query without using the join? We could spend, I don't know, half of a class next week talking about that as well, if there's interest in that. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Sir, are we like a review
Yes.
for the
I'm sorry?
a review for the final, and when is it going to be?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Actually, so I'm going to be releasing the final assignment tomorrow, actually. And it will be due next. What did I say? I wrote it down. Final review. Sure. Let me think. Yeah, we could do that next week as well. Even if it's already there, if you have questions about the final, I can not answer the question itself, but I could come up with a related question to address whatever questions there are. I don't think it will be very surprising or that difficult for you.
So the final and the review would go at the same time.
Yeah. So this is what I talked about. I wanted to give release the last exam early, so that way it can be due next before the before final exam week. The written final exam can be done, but I'm releasing it early, and you'll have like a week to work on it. So yeah. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what we would be reviewing other than just things that we've talked about. Like I said, it's going to be cumulative, but focusing more on SQL. So, like in this previous homework, there were relational algebra queries that I asked, like, what is this doing? Or why is it written this way? For the final, it will be, here's a relational, here's a query. Please write the relational algebra for it, and then also write the SQL query. Or other times it might be, I'll give you a relational algebra query, and I'll ask you to write the SQL query for it. And that's it. I mean, other than that, yeah, there will be a few basic questions on the fundamentals, and yeah, I don't know, 7, 8, no, maybe 10 questions. Yeah, I don't think that it's going to be something that I would need to spend a whole day reviewing for. In fact, I really wouldn't even know what to review for it, other than answering questions that people have about our previous lectures. Do we have the answers of homework 2? Yes. I will release those this weekend. There's a couple of students who for various reasons have been given a slight extension, and so I don't want to release the answers before they have a chance to turn it in. That being said, it will be that extension is done at the end of this week, so I'll release the written answers for homework 2, and yeah, we can go over that next week as well. Okay. Thought we already went over this, but here. Okay. So the exam is going to be released tomorrow. It will be due next Thursday at midnight. The final project is due the week of final exams. Yeah, we had yeah, so the 21st, 22nd, that's when the exam week ends. So it has to be before then. That's the 21st. Actually, it's the 22nd. Yeah, the exam itself. So the last exam, the one that you're going to be writing, is going to be released tomorrow, the 4th, and due December 10th by midnight. That's December 10th is the last day of classes. It will be also our last class. And Yeah, that's when the exam will be due. The final project itself, like I said, yeah, that's due exam week, which exam week ends December 22nd.
So will the project due at the end of exam weeks? Or is in the middle of exam week?
I think the end of exam week is fine. Yeah, December 22nd. It can't be any later than that because I need to submit grades.
Okay. And is it possible that we can have the grading criteria of the final project? Like what should we do and how is everything graded?
Sure.
What characteristic will we have? So, okay, great.
Mhm.
So when can we have this criteria?
I'll put it up today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm. From empty cells. I assume the final project is only needed to be submitted in one database where we create from an empty cells. I'm not sure what that means, create from empty cells. I mean, you're going to be populating a database and making that database available with credentials that I will need to have for my web server. And that's it. It's not really that complicated. So my web server is going to be querying your database. We work with people for the project. Again, yes, you can work with people on the project, but it needs to you need to demonstrate why are you working with another person, that it you needed another person in order to do this project. If you're, I mean, if it's as I said, there has to be something more substantial about a group project than an individual project, because an individual doesn't have the benefit of another person assisting. So I don't exactly know what that means, because I want to, again, have this be something that is hopefully interesting for you, where you're dealing with some type of data that you care about. Maybe it's the data entry part of that is cumbersome. And so having two people do that is why there were two people. But if it's much simpler than that, then it would be hard to justify why there's a group of people doing it. Yes, you do need to tell me who's in your group, because when I'm grading, I need to know who. I mean, yes, I need to know who's. If you're in a group, I need to know who you're working with. Yes, I'll upload this lecture today. I think all of the other lectures should already be uploaded.
So if two people are working on a
Mhm.
single database, is there a way
Mhm.
to like share this database like you would like a Google document or something like that?
I don't understand the question.
So, this initial underscore DB database is tied to your account, right? If I were your partner, how would I edit this one as well?
Again, you can create, either you can have the person, you can use the same login credentials so that you can just share the administrator credentials, or you can have the administrator create another account for another user account for the database, and then the partner can use that one.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, if you want to share this initial underscore database, where would you go to do, like, to create that account?
So I just sent a link. Adding users to your SQL Azure database.
All right, sweet.
Will there be more info on how to enter data into our database in the project guidelines? So, sort of, but it depends on the data that you're using. I mean, I can't give one set of instructions because it very much depends on the data that you're working with. As far as exploratory analysis, yes, that would be something that you could do if you're working with a group. You could have more of that. You know, one person puts in the database, and I don't know, both people are doing it, and they're via queries, you're able to make some observations about the data. That would be acceptable as well. What else here? The overall goal of the project is to have a real database in the cloud that's publicly available for a web server to access and query. And that's mainly it. If there's, I mean, I'm trying to be flexible, saying like, doing more exploration of the data, that's fine. Maybe you don't have that much data, but you can say something interesting about it. Or maybe it was really difficult to put the data in the database, and it was really the data collection that was the hard part. I mean, the main thing is there's a real database in the cloud that's publicly available. Well, not publicly available. I mean, it's available to another service. That's it. How long does it take for the SQL database to be deployed? I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes. You want a written report format. Yeah, there will be some written component of it. I mean, just basically what you did. Okay.
Hey, Professor, I have 2 questions.
Yep.
When you query, does it tell you how much time it takes to like perform it?
It can.
Okay.
Yeah, there are tools that do take that can show you that.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then my second question is like, my Word account and everything is associated with my personal account. So I don't think I have, or like, if I did claim like Microsoft Office as like a Rutgers student, it like wasn't through a Rutgers account. So I still can't make the like actual Microsoft account using like any email I have, and I don't have like an OIT email or anything like that. So I'm not really sure what the best like plan of action would be.
To sort of support what Jeanette is saying, I wasn't able to. I can only make a Microsoft Azure account because I have an OIT work email. I couldn't use my Scarlet Mail, so I imagine anybody who doesn't have a work email of some connect sort wouldn't be able to do this. Not too sure about that, but at least the Scarlet Mail wasn't working for me.
Okay. I will look into that. Okay, yeah, I'll look into it. Maybe there's a way that I don't know. I can create an empty database and add users or something. I don't know. I'll make an announcement about that to let whatever students are having problems with this get in touch with me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then also for next week, do you want us, like, I think my partner and I have like an idea of what kind of data we want to put in. Would you would you want us to send you an email about what it would be in preparation? Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Please.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're not able to connect to the SQL server. Error 40 could not open a connection. How are you trying to... I mean, where are you seeing this, I guess? Is this through this sort of interface? When you created the server, did you allow public access? Yes. All right, let me go through this. Okay. Yeah, Richard, I'm installing the SSMS now, and I'll go through it. SQL Server. Setup failed. What? Richard, can you share your screen? Is that possible? Hold on. After what's this? After I open up Terminal Mac. Docs myself. Should I need to install Homebrew before iCommand? Yeah. If you don't, I thought that Homebrew is already installed on Mac, isn't it? If not, yes, install Homebrew. I'm pretty sure that Mac comes with Homebrew, though, doesn't it? Anyway, that would be very strange to me. If it's not installed, yes, install Homebrew. Okay. Stop this. Hold on, let me. Mouse control. Make presenter. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And Richard, can you just share, I don't know, the app or the, your screen or something? Thank you. Let me maximize this. I'm going to stop the recording as well.